This is Arab Talk on KPOO, 89.5 FM in San Francisco. This is Arab Talk with Jess and Jamal. I'm Jess Nam.
And I'm Jamal Dejani.
Jamal, we're on the precipice of yet another escalation in the Middle East in the last 24 hours. Israel launched an unprecedented missile attack on Iran, hitting the capital and other military bases. It was a brief yet strategically targeted so-called retaliation against Iran. The Iranian newspapers have responded, and as well as the military, saying that the attack was limited. There is a deep scramble right now to de-escalate this really tense situation. Despite that, the Israeli military continues to bomb and destroy the outskirts as well as the city of Beirut. Three Lebanese journalists were killed, by the way, recently by the Israeli military, Jamal, while they were sleeping. And Israel continues its rampage and its genocide in Gaza, Jamal, with ongoing massacres in Gaza, including the Jabalia refugee camp, as well as the last remaining barely functional hospital in Gaza. Children remain starving, and the situation remains grave with no let-up in sight. Regardless of what we hear from Antony Blinken, Jamal, there is no ceasefire, but the genocide continues. We're going to be covering all of those stories today, Jamal. But before we do that, we're going to listen to a really fantastic interview that you did with Dr. Ahmed Ghanim. Dr. Ghanim, no relationship, by the way, is a former congressional candidate from Michigan, my home state. He was removed from a rally with Harris and Cheney. They were singing Kumbaya together, and he was invited. He was a former congressional candidate. And before the rally started, Jamal, he was escorted out. Very humiliating moment. And, you know, the Harris campaign wants to court Arab Americans, but I guess not. So before we get to those other stories, Jamal, we're going to watch a really great interview that you did with Dr. Ghanim.
That's right, Jess. And I don't know what message the Harris campaign is sending to the people in Michigan, one of the most important states for her to win. But it doesn't seem that she's going to achieve that. Let's watch Dr. Ghanim.
With the elections in a dead heat and the focus narrowed to a handful of swing states, Michigan's is one of whose voters could decide the outcome. The large blocks of Arab and Muslim voters there remain alienated by and angry at Kamala Harris, who has done nothing to convince them that she will end Israel's carnage in Gaza and the West Bank, or that she is in tune with their issues at large. Underscoring this, at a recent Democratic rally in the Detroit area where Kamala Harris was joined by Liz Cheney, one of the invitees, Dr. Ahmed Ghanim, a prominent Muslim leader and former Democratic candidate for Congress, was asked to leave. He was given no reason for his removal, but was told that if he did not leave voluntarily, he would be forcibly taken by the police. Dr. Ahmed Ghanim is here on Arab Talk to tell his story. Welcome to Arab Talk, Ahmed.
Thank you for having me.
What was the reason for attending the rally, and what happened after you arrived?
So I am on the list for the Democratic Party since I ran for office here. So I get random invitations here and there. I get a lot of invitations for campaign events. I respond to some. I don't respond to a lot of them. But this event specifically, I responded to when I got the invitation because it was very close to my house. It was not a big event because I'm not a fan of standing in long lines waiting for politicians to talk. And also it had Liz Cheney on the panel, which is a very interesting character I never met before. And I wanted to listen to what she's coming to say, because that was, for me, was a little bit different. Why would Liz Cheney come to Michigan at this particular time? So it was very interesting to go. So I signed up. You send your information that I'm interested to get the invitation first, but you have to respond RSVP. and you put your first name, last name, even date of birth, all the information, which is understandably important because of the Secret Service. And after the next day, I got the confirmation that you are confirmed, and here is the arrival instruction. I got the arrival instruction. I followed the instruction. I went there on time, and I went through the line, through security. Security is exactly like airport security. You go there, and they don't even let you take with you even the signs for Harris or Biden. You don't take anything with you inside. I was dressed in a suit. Didn't have any signs or anything with me, and I was seated. And 15 minutes after I was seated, a lady came to me and said, "Can you follow me, please?" I did follow her. I thought she might be changing my seat, and she took me to the door, and I found 2 police officers there waiting for me, telling me that they don't want me here, and if you don't leave, someone told me if you don't leave, I can put you in the back of my car, or something like that, like, without any even reason to say that. So I said, okay, I'm leaving. I don't mind leaving. I just want to know, why are you kicking me out? And I started to film at this point because things were crazy. And he said, we are not kicking you out, meaning the police and the security service are not kicking me out. It is the venue that is kicking me out. And I did ask, why would the venue kick me out? This is the first time ever to go to this venue. I don't have any problem with the venue. They don't know me. I didn't pose any trouble. So the lady refused to talk and said, you have to leave now. So I said, okay, and left.
So you've been making the rounds on different on the media to talk about this mistreatment. So I assume the Harris campaign heard this story, right? Were you given an apology by the Harris campaign? Did they reach out to you?
They issued a statement saying that they regret the incidents and they welcome me for any future events. But the statement did not address why was I removed and who removed me. It just, we regret the incidents. So it's like, it's an apology, but they don't want to take responsibility for what happened. When the campaign manager called me and she said, we are sorry for what happened. It was a mistake. And I told her, that's fine. Thank you for the phone call, but I need to know, why was I removed? Because apology without accountability is not really an apology. I need to know, why was I removed? And she did not provide. She said, I don't have any information now. Maybe we will investigate and we'll see. I told her, either A, you investigated and you know the results, why was I removed, and you're hiding something, or B, you did not investigate, which means that you don't take that seriously. And I don't see any third option for that. So either A or B. She did not answer, and she kept saying the same customer service things like, we value you, we value your contributions, and you're welcome at next event, and we thank you and stuff like that. But that for me was not satisfactory, because it's not just about me. That's a trend that happened to Muslims and Arabs. Muslims and Arabs were denied having a place on the stage in Chicago where they had their national convention, the DNC. And when I start looking out, I found that other people actually were removed from previous rallies and functions for the campaign over the past few weeks. So it's a trend. So it's happening. It's not just one event. It's happening.
To your knowledge, were there anyone else removed from that event besides you?
No, nobody else, just me.
Well, that couldn't be random profiling, right? Do you think you ran for Congress in the area where the rally was held? Do you think that played a role in profiling you and for the campaign to ousting you?
That's exactly what I wanted to know. I wanted to know because the point is they know me very well at this in this city. It is not. I'm not a famous person, but I ran this. I ran in this city. So everyone involved in politics, all the organizers in the area, they know me because I did campaign in this area, in this city. I had my signs there. I was canvassing door to door there. I spoke at the Democratic Club party for this city, Royal Oak, Michigan. So every organizer, everyone involved with the campaign, I'm pretty sure they know me very well in this city. So it is not a case of mistaken identity or a case of, oops, we made a mistake. I think they decided to remove me. And this is why I'm asking, what is the reason that you remove me? Knowing that I ran in this city as a Democratic candidate, knowing I got 13,000 votes in this county. Some of these votes are from this city. So some people from this city, a portion of this city, elected me and wanted me to represent them. So why are you kicking me out from a city that I'm supposed to be part of the party in the city?
The Harris campaign claims reaching out to everyone in the United States. Michigan, of course, is a very important state for her election. Do you think that they are doing a good job reaching out to Arab and Muslim Americans?
I started to suspect that from day one, the plan is to exclude the Arabs and Muslims. I started to realize that they gave up on Arabs and Muslims. They felt that because of what's happening in Gaza, Arabs and Muslims are not going to vote for them anyway. So why bother putting any resources or any effort to reach out to them? Definitely there's some attempts to reach out to the Arabs and Muslims, but it's not really what you need to do when you have critical issues and critical matter like that and critical election right now. I think what campaign, and this is my analysis as a political analysis. I don't have any insider when it comes to this issue, but my guess is they saw that Harris is the first, or they market her in the political marketing as the first African American female president. So they saw that, okay, maybe 50, 60,000 Arabs and Muslims in Michigan will not vote for us, but can we replace those with first-time African American voters? So we cancel this. I think that was the initial plan. This plan is good for me as a minority and as someone who works in politics in Michigan, because we really need to motivate the African American community here. And I think if the African American community in Michigan motivated to a point that's really engaged in high numbers, like 60 or 70% of the African American community in Michigan vote, I think that all politics in Michigan will change, because the African American community in Michigan is very, very disregarded and taken advantage of, and nobody is serving them. So it's good. But I think they failed in that too, because I live here in Michigan, I live in Detroit area, and I see there is no big push or big movement in the African American males and females to support Harris. So I think that was their initial plan. Don't worry about the Arabs and Muslims. We're going to get the African Americans instead. But that too did not work.
So in your assessment, do you think that she's going to lose Michigan?
It's very hard to tell, because Michigan, it's very, very, I think it will be very, very tight. It was always tight like that, and very, very close, very narrow. Trump won Michigan in 2016 by only 10,000 votes, just 10,000 votes. And Biden won Michigan by 100,000 votes. So it's narrow between 10,000 and 100,000, which is not a lot in a big city like Michigan, a big state like Michigan. But yeah, that's why it's every vote in Michigan counts. But I cannot really predict who will win Michigan. But based on what I see every day, I think she has very, very unlikely to win Michigan.
Mentioning Trump, I read somewhere that he approached you to make an ad. His campaign approached you to make an ad for them. What was your response?
I declined, definitely. I don't want to be used as a political weapon. My activism and me running for office and everything I do for the community is out of my conviction of what I see right and what I see wrong. If I see Trump as a better leader for this country, I will go and volunteer to do an ad for him without even having any problems. But I wouldn't do an ad for someone as a reaction, as an act of revenge. I wouldn't do that. I was there trying to represent my community, represent myself as a human being, represent my community as an Arab, as a Muslim, and I was removed. So I want to know why was I removed, and the good thing that Trump was already reaching out to a lot of Muslims. So he's reaching out to, the Yemeni community in Hamtramck. Now he's reaching out to the Lebanese community in Dearborn, Michigan. So his campaign actually is putting a lot of effort to reach out to the Muslims and Arab community in Michigan. And that what makes my job very hard as someone who was supposed to work with the Democratic Party, because when I go back and tell people we want to vote for Harris, they said they didn't even want you at your event. How would you ask me to vote for them? And at the same time, Trump is actually in Michigan meeting with Yemeni community. He spent time with them. He ate food with them, traditional Yemeni food. Also, he was he's coming back to Michigan and meeting Arabs and Muslims again. He's planning to meet with the imams of Michigan. I got an invitation to meet with him. So all that is happening while Harris and her campaign are totally abandoning the Arabs and Muslim community.
It's hard to fathom that the Republicans are doing a better job in Michigan reaching out to Arab and Muslim Americans than the Democrats, and they have not learned their lesson with Hillary Clinton, who basically, blew her chances of winning the presidential elections.
Yeah, I think we need, I think, moving forward, regardless of who will win this election, the Democratic Party needs to do a lot of work to understand if they are really what they claim to be, the party of diversity and inclusion, and are they really keen about having all the voices and everyone on the table? Because over the past year, we did not see that. We saw suppression, an institutional suppression of the voices of Arabs and Muslims in the party. Not just Arabs and Muslims, anyone actually in the left that had any different idea or any different suggestion of the direction of the party. We saw that this party is paid by AIPAC, and it's now owned by AIPAC. And the Democratic Party, that's supposed to be the progressive party, the party of democracy, does not do anything to break away from AIPAC and from dark money. So the message actually about let's overturn Citizens United, let's get the dark money out of politics, is mainly coming from the party that actually received the biggest amount of dark money. So if you are a representative in the Democratic Party and you got your seat somewhere in the Senate or the House, they never talk about that, because basically this is how they got their seats. But they just give us lip service about this progressive idea. And it's beyond Gaza. It's not just about Gaza. Gaza is a genocide. It's the most important issue for any Arab and Muslim and progressive, real progressive in this country right now. But Gaza, it maybe in 2 years, 3 years from now will be done. Hopefully way before that. But beyond Gaza, is a Democratic Party a Democratic Party. What's the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, except for some, claims that needs to be verified on the ground? Because so far we have not seen that at all. Biden was the president for 4 years. The civil rights did not improve under Biden. The Democrats have a majority in a lot of states, and they have a sizable amount of representative in Senate and House. And the progress that's happening in this country is very, very slow. So they have to ask themselves why. But what the Democrat had since, I think this is one of the effects of Trump, is they mastered the strategy of being, the victim, and the strategy of fear. It's fear tactics. So don't expect anything from the Democrat, this is the message, except for saving democracy. And saving democracy for them means blocking Trump. But that is not enough. Since Biden, when you listen and you hear to any ads for the presidential ads, or the narrative that's coming from the presidential candidates in the Democratic Party is, it's me or Trump. It's me or Trump. All the ads now for Harris, it's attack ads on Trump. It's what life will be if Trump become a president. Not what life will be if Harris is a president. The masses are not motivated by hope, but motivated by fear right now. So, and this is the whole narrative of when they talk to you about Gaza, which is absurd. They said, we know it's bad. We know there is a genocide, but you know what? Trump will make it worse. And you're talking to people that in power, instead of saying, we will do it better, we will work to make it better. It's bad. We are sorry that it went that bad. No, we know it's bad, but it would be worse under Trump. So it's, pick your choices. It's us or Trump. And I think this is not sustainable on the long term as a narrative that will bring everyone together. The Democratic Party is different than the Republican Party. The Republican Party has a very strong, wide base of support. The Democratic Party was built on segments of society coming together, the Arabs, the African Americans, the Latinos, the immigrants, all these people that don't have anything in common except being a minorities coming together to build the base of the Democratic Party. And now, because of this narrative that does not offer anything except fear, these bases are chipping away from the Democratic Party. So that's what we see here in Michigan for the Arab Americans. We see it in Florida for the Latino Americans. We see it in a lot of areas for African Americans. So whatever happens this November 5th should be a wake-up call for the Democratic Party to either decide, are they going to go back on track or wait for this party to go away?
Well, a big segment of Arab Americans, and actually minorities, because we've seen the thousands of people demonstrating across the United States, protesting the war and calling for an end to the genocide, have voted uncommitted in the primaries, and some are voting for a third-party candidate because they want to see an end to the duopoly, like Dr. Jill Stein. Do you feel with this round, people are going, they have options. Some people might not even go out and vote because they feel so let down by the Democratic Party. Will they vote, for example, for a third-party candidate like Dr. Jill Stein or Cornel West?
I think definitely Palestine is picking up steam and picking up more ground than before. Is she going to have 5% or not to be able to unlock the federal funding? We will know that on November 5th. But definitely, her message, her narrative is bringing a lot of young people that, they are not career politicians. They see what's right and what's wrong, and they see two candidates providing nothing to solve the problem in Gaza and even on the social issues here in the United States. And you see someone and the underdog, and she's talking to them, she's doing Zoom meeting with them, she's taking calls, she actually went and commented in one of my posts. So she's someone they feel that she's dear and near to their generation and their work. So I think she will pick up a lot of votes, definitely, and hopefully this will be a start to a real third party and not just a presidential race. But the Green Party need to be organized and need to be, and I think the progressive movement and the Democratic Party eventually will move to the Green Party once the Green Party has the resources to accommodate a big movement like the progressive movement. That will happen. If it didn't happen this cycle, it will happen next cycle. But definitely, when we voted in February, Uncommitted in February, we got 100,000 votes in Michigan. When we started this movement here, we had a meeting, the very first meeting 4 weeks before the election, before February, the election in February. And in 4 weeks, we said we want to talk about the Uncommitted. A lot of us did not know what is the Uncommitted. This is something new to us. And we talked about it and said, this is what we're going to push people to vote. And our goal was to get only 10,000 votes. But we exceeded our goal and we got over 100,000 votes. And if you dissect these votes, and I told that to a lot of people in the Democratic Party, they keep branding the uncommitted votes as Arabs and Muslims vote, which is totally not true. Because out of 100,000 votes, probably less than 8,000 votes coming from the Muslims and Arabs. And the rest are coming from, if you look at the precincts and where these votes came from, the most are coming from the left, from the base of the Democratic Party. So they don't have a problem with the Arabs and Muslims. They have a problem with the base. I saw some people that never voted anything by Democratic and big part of the Democratic Party. They said they are going to vote Palestine this time. And that should ring a bell for the Democratic Party. In a crucial election like that, when are you losing your left? This is very bad. And it's not just about numbers. Like, we all know if you are an organizer, if you run a campaign like mine, which I did learn a lot, the people on the left are the most active people in the United States. There might be one vote, but someone on the left can be very active that they can bring like 100 votes. And then the primaries, a lot of people don't vote in the primaries and don't take it that serious. But on November, we will see when those people are pissed and when these people move to Palestine, how much people they will bring with them to Palestine away from the Democratic Party. I personally understand that you cannot run a successful campaign by pissing the left, especially in progressive areas like most counties in Michigan, because they are really the most dedicated and most active people that they can work for 12 hours a day without even getting any money or getting any support or getting anything. They are self-motivated. So, and when the Democratic Party loses the left, or at least they are not energized like before, because I was here when I was volunteer with Obama was running as a president. And I was volunteer when Biden was running as a president. And I am seeing what happened when was Harris now as a president. And there's a huge difference. Obama was able to motivate and move the Arabs, the Muslims, the African American. People will volunteer for Obama campaign. People will camp. We will canvass day to day because they saw a message of hope. Obama, when we were campaigning and canvassing for Obama, we never talked about his the other candidates. We're only talking about Obama because the candidate is big enough and is strong enough and is convincing enough to capture and to gain the minds and hearts of the voters. But here with Harris, we're only talking about Trump, how Trump is bad, how Project 2025, how is this happening, how is that, how is going to deport every Muslim, how is going to kill every baby and it's just like, it's fear mongering to a point that's become ridiculous. And I tell people, we were under Trump for 4 years. It's scary, it's bad, but it's not as you paint it, So, this is what they have to do right now, and this is the most important. This is the message that's coming from the Muslims and Arabs, that the Democratic Party was home for us for a long time. And now we feel like we are being kicked out of our home.
Dr. Ahmed Ghanim, thank you for coming on Arab Talk.
Thank you so much for having me, and my pleasure to be there anytime you want me. Thank you so much.
That's the voice and the face of Dr. Ahmed Ghanim, a former congressional candidate from the state of Michigan, talking about his experience of being thrown out of a Harris campaign rally in a battleground state, Michigan. Unbelievable, Jamal. So here we have the Harris campaign and the Democrats saying how much they love Arab Americans, how they want to court Arab Americans. They go to Michigan, which is the epicenter for Arab American as well as Palestinian communities in the United States. And they completely humiliate and basically shut down any relationship with the Arab American community, Jamal, in Michigan, which is a battleground state. Help me understand that. Well, I guess Dr. Ghanim, Ahmed, made it clear.
Well, I mean, now you know why you have the uncommitted votes and people who are there going to vote for third-party candidates like Dr. Jill Stein. But also, guess what? Donald Trump has been to Michigan. He had dinner with the Yemeni community in Michigan. He's going back again to court the Arabs and Muslims in Michigan. And what does the Harris campaign do? They alienate them more. They shut them, when they try to speak. They get them out when they don't speak. Because my conversation with Dr. Ahmed Ghanim said he was sitting there quietly. He didn't bring any placards or signs or had any plans to interrupt her speech and so forth. Yet he was profiled, and he was the only one to be thrown out of that hole. I should also, listening in people, you've listened to the interview, but they tried to reach out to him later on and say, oh, we made a mistake. Well, tough luck. You made a mistake.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, come on. They reached out to him after he was invited on several media outlets when they saw him speaking out and got them embarrassed. And guess what? Donald Trump campaign also reached out to him. So if they lose, all these things will come back to haunt them when, if they lose Michigan, I'm for sure this will come back to haunt them.
Yeah, but Jamal, just really quick on that, just to let you know, in addition to alienating the community and alienating Dr. Ghanim, what they also did recently is that the mayor of Hamtramck, which is a city, in Detroit, in and around the Detroit area, he's a Yemeni Muslim mayor of Hamtramck. The city council is all Muslim. And he just came out in the last day basically saying that he endorses Donald Trump for president. So that alienation in the Arab American community in Michigan continues. People are not just voting for Jill Stein and other third-party candidates. There's a large number of people who are actually going to vote for Donald Trump. I think the Harris campaign is in trouble.
They're making mistakes after the other. Moving on, Jess, the big story, of course, within the past 24 hours, Israel has attacked Iran. And I don't know about you, but I feel this is like a no-burger kind of attack.
It's a no-burger. Yeah.
Although the media is not portraying it as such, or the United States, they're saying that this attack was limited, but it was accurate and etc. But I've been watching what's going on in Iran on the ground, and from different reports, we don't see like a major damage. Like this was actually a measured attack, or limited, according to the United States. The attack was the United States was notified about it. It seemed to have been coordinated. And the other thing, although Israel supposedly had 100 planes launched, but none of the planes, I'm not talking about the drones, but the F whatever 15s and 16s and so forth, went inside of Iran, but rather targeted some military sites with its missiles. So they stayed away from Iranian territory, because if you look at it, as we've spoke about that before, Iran is such a big country. And then when you see the different, sites that they have attacked, there's no way on earth these planes would have made it back, with their limited fuel,
Right.
even if they were gotten refueled. So they played it safe in a way. They just flew over Iraq. They bombed some sites in Syria and in Iraq, and then launched missiles. But then I also had some drones that reached these targets in Iran.
But Jamal, a couple of things. All we know in terms of casualties is about 3 Iranian military personnel have been killed. There were some bomb explosions in and around Tehran, the capital. But the thing that I really wanted to ask you is that maybe I'm not so good on geography, but what countries would the Israeli military have to fly over in order to carry out this military campaign?
Well, there were reports, a video that was posted on social media on multiple platforms showing Israeli planes flying over Jordan.
Over
and that's
Jordan.
that I cannot confirm this, but people can search that. And the question is, Jordan was made a clear statement that they don't want their airspace to be used, and they were shooting down Iranian missiles, supposedly, the last time around. But I didn't see them shooting down Israeli drones or Israeli jets flying over their territory. So that there is a big question mark on this. I don't know, if this has been confirmed, but people can look up that video on the internet. But they flew, supposedly, they flew over Jordan into Iraq and Syria and bombed some sites there, radar sites and missile sites, and then from Iraq into, to answer your question. So they admit that they have attacked Iraq, but they also admit, the Israelis, attacked Syria. But then in order to get there, they flew over Jordan. That's according to at least eyewitnesses and videos. Again, I repeat, these were unconfirmed.
But I want to go back to your original point, Jamal, is that this is a nothing burger in terms of if we look at the Israeli military response, not much really, despite all the bellicose and threatening language coming from Netanyahu and from Gallant and from the extremist members of the Knesset. This was not that big of a response, to be honest. So we have to ask the question politically, did the Israelis kind of limit this as a little gift to Joe Biden to not escalate before the election? Or does this say something more about the worry of the Israeli military and the Israeli establishment that an all-out war with Iran right now, with the front in Lebanon and what's happening in Palestine, maybe it's too much for them to take on right now? What's the analysis coming from the Arab world on that?
Well, it's exactly what you said. And the other side of this is that Benjamin Netanyahu likes to, as trophies, to display certain small successes, and he couldn't let this go because Iran managed to attack Israel last time. and some of its drones had direct, even though initially they denied the damages, had direct hits on Israeli military bases. So he waited and waited and waited, and supposedly Biden, which we've seen that many times in the media, that Biden told him not to attack any nuclear facilities or anything that related to the energy or oil fields in Iran, and so they limited this supposedly to some military bases and also some, they say, missile manufacturing plants and so on, and very limited damage, with the expectation that that will be the end of the story. Now, this is on cue, as we've seen it before. The United States said to Iran to let it go, like, okay, now it's over. We warn you, don't retaliate. They always issue these statements like to Iran or other countries, but Israel, whenever Israel attacks, they give them the green light to do whatever they want to do. So on cue, the minute this was over, they said, okay, now the Israeli attack is over, and we're telling you to basically don't retaliate. And that's the warning to Iran. Now, whether Iran is going to adhere to this warning or not, we don't know. And Iran said, actually, if its capital is attacked or whatever, which they did attack around Tehran, that they will definitely retaliate. So I don't know to tell you if they are going to retaliate or not, but at least it seems for now that this is over.
Yeah, but to say that it's over really belies the reality of what's happening on the ground, Jamal, in terms of what's happening in Lebanon, Gaza, and the West Bank. Because the Israeli military assault on Beirut, on the south in Lebanon, in Gaza, continues viciously, and the attacks on the civilian population, civilian infrastructure in Lebanon and in Gaza continues full steam ahead. I mean, the number of civilians that are being murdered, Palestinian civilians being murdered every day in refugee camps, in hospitals in Gaza, Jamal, is, I mean, I saw this report. There was a doctor from one of the last remaining hospitals basically said, this is the darkest moment in the history of the year genocide in Gaza right now, what's happening. But we're not seeing that on the media reports. I mean, the situation has gotten significantly worse, despite with Blinken having gone there now for the 11th time in this last year. There's no increase in aid coming into Palestinians in Gaza, Jamal. So the situation there remains really, really devastating.
Well, I mean, this was, again, talking about the attack on Iran, this was another distraction from Gaza. Also, everything, all the coverage about what's happening in Lebanon is also, which is also very serious, but it's still another distraction from Gaza as Israel keeps committing daily massacres and genocide and ethnic cleansing and attacking on hospitals and journalists, and which our next topic just is now. Recently, Israel has posted on Twitter or X basically the pictures of Palestinian journalists, 6 Palestinian, I think 6 the number of Palestinian journalists, pretty much the last few Palestinian journalists working in Gaza, and basically saying that they are members of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. I mean, they basically put a justification or issue the justification that we are going to kill them. Like when you're now saying that they are basically members of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, they are saying that we are going to assassinate them. And of course, Al Jazeera, most of them work for Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera has strongly rejected the claim. And so the 6 named journalists, actually 6, Anas al-Sharif, Talal Arouki, Ala Salami, Hussam Shabbat, Ismail Farid, and Ashraf Sarraj. These guys work mostly for Al Jazeera, and they are professionals. And they are, as I've mentioned, the last few remaining. Israel has killed to date more than 150 journalists in Gaza. They don't want anyone to see the images. They are the ones. And recently, by the way, which is also connected, they've arrested like activists and people who post videos on Instagram and YouTube and so forth. And we don't know what happened to them. Some were let go later on after they destroyed their cameras and computers and so forth. And others Israel is still holding them. So the question is, Israel is not done with its massacre.
No, they're not.
And next week we'll have our guest Oren Zev, who I spoke to him recently. We'll have him, on the show, and he talks about the settlers' plans to settle Gaza, and what the Israeli military is doing for them is basically ethnically cleansing Palestinians living in Gaza, so the settlers can move into Gaza just like they have moved into the West Bank. I mean, this is the big plan that is unfolding in front of our eyes, and just everyone's kind of like everyone is normalizing it, just like seeing Palestinian kids dying every day, seeing them marching, members of or the staff of a hospital half naked in the street is normalized. The bombing schools is normalized. Israel now is normalizing that and vilifying UNRWA, and they're going to issue a statement soon saying that it is a terror organization or something like this, so they cannot operate. And people are sitting around watching this.
But that's exactly right, Jamal. This is part of the Israeli plan to not just normalize, but to get the world to ignore this genocide that's happening in Gaza right now. And I think that in terms of the wall or the hall of shame, when we think of the complicitors, the people who have been complicit in this genocide, including Kamala Harris, including Joe Biden, probably at the top of the list is Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who continues to spew just outright lies and disinformation every single day. Jamal, they've issued this statement saying that the United States is, quote, putting pressure on Israel to increase the amount of humanitarian aid to come into Gaza, and it must do that within 30 days. That was 10 days ago. Do you know how much additional aid has come into Gaza since Antony Blinken made that comment?
Nothing.
There's been none. No increase whatsoever. There continues to be starvation. The World Food Program continues to issue grave warnings about the starvation that's going on in Gaza. And I think you're exactly right, Jamal, that not only has Israel normalized this, but because they've killed journalists and denied Al Jazeera, they don't want anybody to see.
Look, in the Jabalia, Gaza has been under total siege for 22 days. No food has entered Jabalia, no medical supplies has entered Jabalia, and no journalists or any NGOs and NGO members were allowed except for the journalists who are working there. In one night, less than 24 hours, a horrific massacre occurred in Jabalia. Over 150 Palestinians were killed or injured due to Israeli shelling. I mean, and with no one allowed to rescue them. The Gaza civil defense were not allowed to enter there. Paramedics from the hospitals weren't allowed to enter there. And many of them bled to death. Jess, while speaking on the mobile phone to their loved one. Remember,
That's right.
And nobody could reach them just from a wound in their leg or something like this. They bled to death. And that's what's going on. And we know about it because there are few journalists who are operating there. We know about it because there are few activists who are operating there and posting videos online. So the people are watching this in real time. Antony Blinken is sitting, whether he's in Washington, D.C. or he's traveling on the road, knows about this because he can watch it. Kamala Harris, when she speaks about the innocent, she called them the innocent, like there are good Palestinians and bad Palestinians. The innocent Palestinians who are getting killed, that she says, oh, it's terrible. Too many innocent Palestinians are getting killed. She knows about it because she gets the daily briefing from
Right.
her national security advisor, showing her these pictures and images, and yet they haven't done anything. And I should have said, I should correct myself. Israel has killed 180 journalists, not 150 since October 7th. So that's why now they're targeting the last few ones who remained alive. And they're destroying the last few hospitals that are still standing. It is genocide in all its meaning, description, whatever you want to call it. And it's extermination of Palestinians. The number is, if you recall last week, we had our guest on the
Right.
show last week who said by the end of when this is all done with, and maybe a couple of
200,000.
years pass by or so on, maybe the number of Palestinians will rise to about 1 million. Imagine that. 1 million, basically, from Gaza. And those are the Palestinians who are not counted for, with some organizations said the number is not 42,000, but more 180,000, like the Lancet, for example. But people are going to die from disease. People are going to die from poor sanitation and the spread, of, again, viruses and so forth like this, and bacteria. And they are going to die for lack of medical attention. All these people who are the amputees and the injured and the people who needed treatment, just your normal patients who suffer from cancer or other, they're going to die. And which means the extermination of a whole generation, like meaning the whole family dies, they're not going to have any offsprings.
Well, that's exactly right, Jamal. And when this part of history is written, in the hall of shame of people who are morally bankrupt and who turned a blind eye to what's happening to Palestinians in Gaza, West Bank, Jerusalem, and beyond. On that front page will be Anthony Blinken, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden. And then we're hearing reports, Jamal, that they're already, because people are worried about Kamala Harris losing, they're already starting to blame Arab Americans if she loses. We're already hearing that kind of rhetoric. And our comment has always been, the Democrats have no one to blame but themselves. And, we're about a week and a half away from the elections, Jamal. So we're going to be reporting very actively on all of this.
You've been listening to Arab Talk on KPOO San Francisco 89.5 FM. Go to our website, arabtalkradio.com, to download the latest shows, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.